Welcome back to our Database Design and Development unit. In this lesson we'll continue with implementation and looking at subqueries. As always, we have our learning intentions, which for this lesson are as follows. We'll learn what a result table is. We'll learn how to create a query using the result from another query or a subquery. Our success criteria for this lesson will be to be able to describe what a result table is and be able to create a query using the result from another query. When we execute a select query successfully, the results or output are shown in a results table. The results table has columns and rows, and these can be queried just like any other table. So therefore, this results table can also be queried. Therefore, the query which produces the initial results table, the initial query, select query we looked at, is known as a subquery, or inner query is another name for this. The input to this query will include an existing table from the database, in this case the city table. The query working on that results table is known as the main query or the outer query. The input to this query will include the results table from your subquery. Let's look at our first example. In this example, we'll look at the country code with the greatest number of cities, and we're going to display that number. This is our city table. This is the data that's contained within the table. And we can see that we have entity attributes of city ID, city name, country code, population, longitude and latitude, and the data contained within. Now the first step for this will be to count the number of cities which belong to each country code. So we're going to get the country code with the corresponding number of cities. We can see our query, select country code. We have an aggregate function of count and its expression city name and its alias as number of cities is how it will be shown in its results table. We are going to take this from the city table and group by the non-aggregate expression country code. Now the input for this query is the table city, as we can see here in the from clause. We have that there. This will give us our result table, our output, which will display country codes and the number of corresponding cities per country code. This will be our subquery, our inner query. Now we have those results, we can then query this results table. In this step, we are going to find the maximum value from the number of cities column. We do this with our main query or our outer query, which is select max number of cities as most cities. and we're going to select that from our subquery. The output from our main query results is 308. Again, the process we have followed is to create a subquery initially, getting each country code and the corresponding number of cities. That is our subquery, and then using our main query, we query our subquery results table to find out the maximum number, which in this case returns a value of 308. Let's look at example 2, which is a little more complex. We have two entities, or two tables, the city table and the country table or entity. And with this query, we are looking to display each country name along with the average population of cities. So basically we're going to take each country name and display the average population of all the cities associated with that country. So the first step is to create a subquery, which is going to find the average city population, which belongs to each country code. And we're going to do that using a select query, where we are going to select country code. We're going to use a aggregate function, the average aggregate function, with the expression population, and we're going to assign it an alias as average population per city. And we're going to take that from the city table, and we're going to use a group by clause on the non-aggregate expression, which is country code. So we will have our input of the city table. We take that data, apply this select query to that to get our result table, which will give us our country code and the average population of the cities associated with that country code. Step 2 is to then use that results table in our main query or our outer query, and that is going to be linking the average city populations to the corresponding country name. Now our main query will take the subquery as an input, the results table there, as we can see. Select country code, average population as average population per city from city, and group by country code. We can see that we are also going to add to our main query the country table as an input also. So we're going to take that table, and our main query will output results of the country name and the average population of all its cities. It does this by selecting the country name and the average population per city. We then, in the where clause, have an equijoin where it says city.countrycode equals country.countrycode. So we will return results when both of these country codes are the same. This will then provide us with our output table, our main query result table. There is an alternative method to carry out these subqueries. In the previous example, the subquery will only exist and run while the query is in operation. Alternatively, we can create and save a query. So the initial subquery, which we have in this example shown previously, can be created and saved, perhaps as query 1. When it comes to our main query, we can, in the from clause, put the query that we previously saved. In this case, query 1. We now have that subquery as an input and the country table. In the previous example, we showed the code that was nested in the query. This will obviously tidy up the code, make it a little bit more readable, and it will ensure that this query is available for any other queries or to be used as a subquery in any other queries moving forward. The downside of that is that it will increase the file size of our database as we have another saved query within it. Both methods are relevant and both can be implemented practically. Thanks for listening to the lesson. I hope you found it useful. Please like and subscribe for more up-to-date content.